Broken ladders and glass ceilings, the dangerous myth of making it. Good morning, and thank you for being here today. I recently had the extraordinary privilege of interviewing Lanita Wynn, a visionary thought leader whose work has fundamentally transformed how we understand equity, representation, and authentic progress in our society. Lanita isn't just analyzing systems of power, she's dismantling them and rebuilding frameworks that serve everyone, not just the privileged few. Her revolutionary insights on the complex realities facing Black women professionals has sparked movements across industries, challenging us to look beyond superficial metrics and confront uncomfortable truths about what real progress demands of us all. What I'm about to share stems from our profound conversation, and I warn you now, it contains truths that might make you deeply uncomfortable. But sometimes discomfort is the price we must pay for clarity. And clarity is what we desperately need in this moment. We live in an era obsessed with headlines and hashtags. We celebrate firsts with such enthusiasm: the first Black woman on the Supreme Court, the first Latina CEO, the first openly gay cabinet member. We track diversity statistics and representation percentages. We post Black squares on Instagram and rainbow flags during Pride Month. And with each symbolic victory, we declare progress. But what if this narrative of steady progress is fundamentally dangerously flawed? What if these celebrated milestones are actually masking a far more troubling reality? This is the question that keeps Lanita Wynn up at night, and it should keep us up too. Consider this jarring contradiction. The 2025 Fortune 500 list shows a historic high for women CEOs, a cause for celebration, certainly. Yet only two of those leaders, 2 out of 500, are Black women. At the same time, recent job market data reveals that Black women lost over 106,000 jobs in April 2025 alone, more than any other demographic group during a period when overall U.S. employment actually rose. How can we possibly reconcile these opposing truths? How can we simultaneously witness historic breakthroughs and devastating setbacks? The answer lies in understanding a fundamental truth that Lanita articulates with such clarity. Progress isn't linear, it never has been. And representation, while important, doesn't automatically translate to equity. Let me say that again because it's absolutely crucial. Representation does not equal equity. This insight challenges our comfortable assumptions about how change happens. We've been taught that if we can just get enough women, enough people of color, enough historically marginalized individuals into positions of power, systemic change will naturally follow. But the evidence tells a very different story. Take the Sunda Brown Duckett, one of only two Black female CEOs on the Fortune 500 list. Her journey to becoming CEO of TAA represents both remarkable achievement and a sobering reminder of how exceptional, how rare her story remains. Before joining TIA, Duckett served as CEO of Chase Consumer Banking, where she championed financial inclusion for marginalized communities. At TIA, she's implemented new diversity benchmarks and expanded company wide initiatives. Her accomplishments are extraordinary. She's nationally recognized for inclusive leadership practices. Her visibility has inspired aspiring leaders across the country. But her rise also underscores how rare such representation remains and why continued advocacy is urgently needed. Because while Duckett navigated an industry with few peers who looked like her, she also contended with expectations to represent broader diversity goals beyond her own role. The weight of being the only one or one of few creates additional burdens that her white counterparts simply don't face. This is the double bind that challenges the narrative of steady progress. Individual success stories, however inspiring, don't automatically translate to systemic change. And sometimes what looks like progress can mask deeper vulnerabilities. Consider what happened in April 2025. In a single month, over 106,000 jobs held by Black women disappeared, the largest drop among any demographic group during a period when the overall job market was growing. This wasn't a random fluctuation. It reflected systemic vulnerability stemming from overrepresentation in low wage sectors combined with underrepresentation in executive roles. When economic shifts occur, Black women often face disproportionate impacts. They're more likely to work in sectors with less job security. They have fewer safety nets. They encounter more barriers when seeking new opportunities. In response to this crisis, grassroots organizations mobilized emergency resources, upskilling workshops, networking events, transition support. Some women successfully pivoted into tech startups or consulting. Others used collective bargaining to demand better protections. But these community driven solutions, while vital, shouldn't obscure the need for systemic change. The episode exposed deep structural flaws requiring long term policy fixes, not just short term relief. This pattern, breakthrough achievements alongside persistent vulnerabilities, challenges our understanding of what real progress looks like. It's not that representation doesn't matter, it absolutely does. But representation without corresponding changes in systems, cultures, and power structures isn't enough. True equity requires not just visibility, but also fair compensation, advancement opportunities, and supportive workplace cultures. It demands that we look beyond the exceptional few who break through barriers to examine whether those barriers are actually coming down for everyone else. This brings me to another insight from my conversation with Lanita Wynn. The rise of entrepreneurship among Black women represents both empowerment and adaptation to persistent workplace inequities. Black women now own approximately 2.4 million businesses nationwide, the highest rate among minority groups. This remarkable growth, up 3,400% since the early 1970s, reflects both opportunity and necessity. For many, entrepreneurship offers a path to autonomy and wealth building outside traditional employment structures where advancement has proven difficult. It's a way to create opportunity when existing doors remain closed or only partially open. But entrepreneurship also comes with its own challenges. Accessing capital remains difficult due to legacy discrimination from banks and investors, plus lack of intergenerational wealth transfer compared with white counterparts. In response, Black women have created innovative solutions. Peer to peer lending circles formed within local chambers have helped bridge funding gaps. Business coaches, 67% of whom are now female, have provided tailored guidance through accelerators and incubators. These community driven approaches have enabled thousands to launch successful ventures ranging from beauty brands to tech consultancies. Several have become regional employers themselves after scaling operations. These entrepreneurial success stories inspire future generations, but also highlight persistent need for equitable access across all stages from startup capital through expansion support. What emerges from these examples is a more nuanced understanding of progress, one that acknowledges both breakthroughs and persistent barriers. one that recognizes how individual success stories can coexist with systemic inequities. This understanding leads to a profound shift in how we think about change. Representation alone isn't enough. What is? The answer lies in collective solutions. As Lanita Wynn emphasized in our conversation, the path forward is rooted in community driven action. Black women have historically been architects of collective progress by advocating for bold solutions that strengthen communities, economies, education access, and dignity for all. This collective approach recognizes that true progress isn't measured by how many exceptional individuals break through barriers, but by whether those barriers exist at all. It focuses not just on who sits in the C suite, but on whether everyone has fair opportunities to advance, to earn living wages, to work in environments free from discrimination. It demands that we look beyond symbolic victories to examine whether fundamental power structures are changing. Real progress requires both representation and transformation, changing who has power and how that power operates. So, where does this leave us? What do we do with this more complex, more challenging understanding of progress? I believe it calls us to a new kind of courage, the courage to celebrate breakthroughs while refusing to be pacified by them, the courage to look beyond exceptional stories to examine persistent patterns, the courage to demand not just seats at existing tables, but the redesign of the entire room. It requires us to ask harder questions, not just how many women are on your board, but how are power and resources distributed throughout your organization? Not just did you hire diverse candidates, but have you created conditions where everyone can thrive? It demands that we redefine success, moving from symbolic representation to substantive transformation. And most importantly, it calls us to collective action because the most powerful changes have always come not from individual achievement alone, but from movements that transform systems. I challenge each of you today. Examine where you might be mistaking representation for equity in your own organization or community. Ask yourself what deeper changes are needed beyond simply diversifying who sits at the table. Consider how you might contribute to collective solutions rather than just individual advancement. Because the truth is, we don't just need more exceptional individuals breaking through barriers. We need to tear those barriers down completely. We don't just need more people making it despite the system. We need to transform the system itself. This isn't just about creating more opportunities for some, it's about creating justice for all. It's not just about helping a few more people climb broken ladders. It's about building new structures that support everyone's full humanity and potential. The question isn't whether we can celebrate progress, it's whether we have the courage to demand the deeper, more fundamental changes that true equity requires. I believe we do. And I believe that together we can create not just the illusion of progress, but its reality. Thank you